Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Omega Files podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom, and as promised, here on number 40, I've brought in a group of people who were not in the After 50th podcast, some who liked the 50th anniversary, some who didn't. So that way we can get an idea of, what was missing, what was there, what was great, what was good about it, and give it a fair and balanced hearing. Now, first up, we have Colin from America. You're from Louisiana, aren't you, Colin?
Yes.
Okay, how long you been watching Doctor Who since your first time on?
2 or 3 years now.
Okay, so you started out fairly recently. Now, just so I can get your statement, did you like or dislike the 50th anniversary?
Well, I thought it was an awesome episode. Not a really good 50th, but I thought it was an amazing episode. Just wasn't a really good 50th in my opinion.
All right. And joining us again is Harry. Harry, do I have to ask?
You know my feelings. I did not care for it one bit. I felt it sunk to high heavens.
All right. And of course, joining us again from Scotland is Colin. Colin,
Hello.
what did you think?
Hello, I liked it. Yeah, I liked it, but it was parts I would have changed, perhaps. I don't know.
All right, and joining us also from Scotland is Romana. Hello, Romana.
Hey.
All right, what did you think of it?
And I actually liked it. I know, I can't believe I did, but I can't really seem to find a lot of fault with it, unfortunately. I've tried.
Okay, now I've been studying this thing left and right. Now, like I said, I gave the episode itself. I think if they would have made it an episode on its own, I think it would have been an 8 out of 10. Even with the things that I've really found wrong with it. I thought it was a good way to bring back the Zygons into the picture. Plus, we got to see the Black Archive and whatnot. But okay, now I'm going to start you off. This is going off what they have on What Culture, and I'm going to bounce this around the panel. On What Culture this week, they had a couple of different lists that I thought were very pertinent. I figured this is good subject material given what we're talking about. Now, the first one they brought up was Doctor Who, 3 things that they felt were wrong with the 50th anniversary. And what the hell's the bong?
That's my Windows mail alert.
Oh, okay.
Every time I get mail in my box, it sends up that little.
Okay, so now the first thing they brought up on the list was the Zygon story didn't have a resolution. Now, let me go around the panel with that one and see what you think of that, really. Let's start off with Colin from America. Do you really feel that the Zygon story had a resolution here?
Well, I don't really know what they mean by a resolution. Like,
do you think they finished it off really well?
No, because they were just. I mean, I liked that they brought him back and stuff, but weren't they supposed to, I thought the duplicates had to be on the ship or something.
Yeah, you see, that was a bit we found a little bit confusing, even the last one, because at first they've got, Kate Stewart in a body print machine, and, then they show everybody else running around mimicking everyone else without having to use one. And it did get a bit confusing in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's pass it on to Harry. Harry, do you think they really resolved the Zygon situation in that episode?
Not at all. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, Zygons were basically just a throwaway tribute to the classic era.
All right. And Colin from Scotland?
Yeah, they didn't resolve it. They didn't come to an end and say, look, we've sorted the Zygon problem out. It looks like they went back into the pictures, but that's not resolving much anything. The Doctor would have to try and seal them up in there. And what else? Yeah.
All right, and of course, Romana, what do you think about the Zygon resolution?
Yeah, I don't know. know, it's a bit too peaceful again. It seems to be this thing with monsters just now. They always make them unscary. So you get to the end of the episode and it turns out nobody was actually a threat after all. And it's kind of like, oh well. It just seems to be happening all the time, constantly.
All right. Now, the other thing they brought up, this was number 2 on their list, was the Doctor is just a hero. Now, let me give you their explanation before I pass this one on. All right. This is what they see. One of the main reasons why the show was so successful when it was rebooted with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor was that he was angry and war-torn. The Ninth Doctor stormed onto the show with interesting personality and a grim intensity. He was obviously damaged, and you got to see him develop and recover, sparking off a process which would affect all his successors. Now he's just a boring standard hero like any other. He's only ever saved people. He's never done anything horrific in his life. Although he's had to live with himself thinking that he's destroyed Gallifrey, the Time Lords, and countless other races, he didn't actually do it, so all that pain has been felt in vain. Now let me pass that around. How do you think this affects the Doctor, knowing now later on that he didn't really destroy Gallifrey? Let's start with Colin from America again.
Well, I think he won't be as dark toned anymore. He'll be more glad that he actually didn't kill his own race instead of sorrow-filled and
all right.
Stuff like that.
Okay. Harry?
All I gotta say is, it just doesn't work. The whole idea of him not feeling guilty, in a way I appreciate, in a way I don't, because the previous incarnations are not going to remember any of this. They're not going to remember the fact that Gallifrey didn't get destroyed. It's only Matt Smith's Doctor and his successors that are going to know that Gallifrey didn't burn.
All right. Callan from Scotland?
Yeah. I think I'll have to start typing stuff in to remember stuff here. Yeah. I think it's pretty good. It'll be a bit confusing when Capaldi comes on and everyone reckons he'll be darker, but he will have no reason to be darker, so that's going to feel a bit strange. Hopefully he'll still play it with a sense of humour. But a lot of people apparently would like to see him a bit darker.
All right, and Romana?
Well, I always thought the Doctor had a dark side, even before the Time War. Well, like in his first serial ever, he tried to kill that caveman for a rock. So that they could get rid of him and they wouldn't have to keep him on the journey. I think he's always had a bit of a dark side, and especially trying to defeat other people. You can always see that it's hard for him to do it. So I think he's always had a dark side. And that bringing Gallifrey back is just, I don't know, some sort of plot device to carry on the story, basically.
Well, very true, yeah, because the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, he definitely was no angel.
Yeah, Sylvester definitely was not an angel. He was a games player personified.
Yeah.
He was a trickster, all right.
Yeah, because we saw him use have trick the Daleks into using the Hand of Omega. So, all right. So, and then the last one they have here was the war was hell, or was it? And what they're going on about here is he explained to the Master how the war had become hell, and in the end, at the end of the part of the end of time, and explained to him how the Time Lords had degenerated to the point over years of warfare that they had become just as bad as the Daleks, if not worse. Now, the thing is, now by saving them, hasn't he brought that back into the fray? Sure, you've saved Gallifrey, but you've also saved the guys who are going to unravel the time vortex and, basically bring about the end of time itself. Now, let's start on the opposite end and go the other way. Let's start with Romana this time. I don't know, do you think bringing back Gallifrey was a good idea considering what they were going to do?
I don't know. I think bringing back Gallifrey is a good idea because it opens up a new dynamic in the show. And maybe if you do bring back scary, horrible Time Lords, there'll actually be a bad guy that can go up against the Doctor again. The big issue I had with series 7 as a whole is that all these monsters seemed dead childish and weak. Whereas if you put them against someone that is totally scary, that is going to make some really good episodes.
All right. And Colin from Scotland?
Yeah, I think Romana's right. She said what she said about the first Doctor, and yeah, I thought the side going to.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. Right.
So bringing back Gallifrey, you think was a good idea?
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting lost here. I'm going to start typing things in here so to remember. Right. Yeah, I thought it will be a good idea. Obviously, it'll be the next series will be the hunt for Gallifrey, and I'm not quite sure where he ended the Time War. I'm not sure he ended it. It probably didn't end it at the start of the Time War. If he managed to end it before the start of the Time War, he probably didn't, did he? What's somebody's thoughts on that? If he's managed to completely eradicate the Time War from it when it started, or when he just before he destroyed Gallifrey and the Time Lords and the Daleks.
Okay. Harry, did you think bringing back Gallifrey was a good idea?
The only good thing about bringing Gallifrey back is that it gives Moffat an out for keeping the show going. Because the way he was explaining it with Matt Smith being the last Doctor and everything, bringing Gallifrey back gives the Doctor a chance for a new regeneration cycle. Therefore, that's about the only good thing that came out of it, was the idea of putting Gallifrey in a pocket dimension so that they can work their own problems out.
All right. And Colin from America?
Well, I think it was a good idea. Because the next series will be like the hunt for Gallifrey, I guess. And until he finds it, he'll probably go against other things, other villains on his way there.
Okay.
So
Now here's the big question. And I know some of you didn't like this show at all. But what I want to ask the panel next is to name some good points and some bad points about the 50th, what I don't like to refer to it as the 50th, but it's the 50th anniversary episode.
What they call the 50th.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to hop in on this all of a sudden, Lady Gallifrey.
Oh, I told you I might.
Thanks for the warning.
Lady, it's a pleasure to have you back again.
Hello.
All right. So I'm going to go around to each one of you and name some good points and some bad points about the episode. Let's start with Romana again and go around.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to try and think of some bad points for me. So probably the only two bad points that I could pick out was that they didn't explain how Callan and the Doctor got out of the time stream at all, except for that apparently Clara can open and shut the doors by snapping her fingers, which is weird, but okay. And I didn't quite understand how much like time was passing throughout the episode, because it seemed to have like its own time period and then it kept jumping. So it is a lot to follow, especially in Gallifrey, because nobody explains like how long the war has been going on and who those people are in like the war room, council room, nobody gets named or anything. So apart from the whole timeline thing, especially on Gallifrey, I don't have a lot of problem with it. But my favorite part of the whole episode has got to be Tom. I mean, every time I hear him, I just burst into tears. I'm just so happy to see him, and he has a great bit of dialogue. And I think I've seen it so many times now that every time he moves or his face changes. It's just, oh, it's the best thing ever. It really is.
I know. I think I've rewatched just that particular part like 100 times over this last week. And yeah, that is one bit that irritated me, though, was Clara being able now to snap her fingers and close and open the doors, because it kind of eliminates an entire sense of danger, because there were episodes where they just couldn't get back into the TARDIS. Now all you got to do is snap your fingers. I didn't like that. Okay, let's go to Colin from Scotland. Good points and bad points.
Yeah, well, the three doctors worked well together. Nice chemistry. The Queen probably shouldn't have known about the Zygon plan, unless the Zygon leader told her exactly what the plan was before she gutted him like a fish. And Tom Baker was great. Obviously, he wasn't the creator, the curator. It was a bit more to him than that. Obviously, by what he said. There must be more, but that'll do.
All right. And, of course, all right, now, Harry, I know it's going to be tough, but were there any good points?
2 good points. Number 1, the return of Tom Baker. I mean, Tom, like I say, Tom was my doctor. And to see him back, oh, did that bring a smile to my face? I mean, if anything was going to bring a smile to my face, it was the return of Tom Baker to the show. I mean, I can't say, I just can't put it into words. It's just the sheer pleasure seeing Tom again on the screen. That only other good part I could say is at the end when you had the tribute to all the doctors. There's when you had images of all of them grouped up together from Hartnell through Matt Smith. I mean, those were about the only 2 good points in the whole 50th anniversary as far as I was concerned. The plot line, for the most part, stunk. There was no hook to it. There was nothing that grabbed you, that made you want to watch it.
Well, I did like how they had whoa, that was weird. I did like how they had Capaldi pop up there also.
And I didn't catch Capaldi's line. I've got it on tape, and I'll have to watch. I've got it on my computer. I'll have to watch it again, but I just didn't spot Capaldi's very brief appearance.
Yeah, it was just his eyes, because they did that because they didn't have an outfit or anything picked out for him yet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Colin from America. Good points and bad points.
Well, I did like how Tom Baker showed up. That was great, and I liked how all the doctors flew in and saved Gallifrey. Thought that was pretty bad A, and it had everything that I wanted to show up, but except for Bessie. I was expecting Bessie to show up for some reason.
I know.
Yeah. The bad points, I didn't like how Clara snapped her fingers. And that's about it.
Okay. Now, in this other article with What Culture.
Sorry, can I just chime in here about Capaldi?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, because I forgot about Capaldi. Right, I was just going to say, it's just his eyes and his eyebrows, you see, but if I was a Dalek and I saw those eyes and eyebrows coming to get me, I'd be slightly wet in my polycarbonate shell. He
scared me.
Hey, those are powerful eyes coming to get you.
I know, yeah, he scared me out of my seat. I was like, wow. Okay, now also on What Culture this week, they had another article that popped up, and they had 5 things that were good about the Day of the Doctor and 5 that were bad. Now, one of the first things they brought up, under 5 things that didn't work, they said Osgood. Now, everybody remembers who she is, right? Young lady with a scar.
Yeah.
They said Osgood was a horrible character. Now, let's get an opinion on Osgood herself. Now, let's go with Colin from America and go back around the other way. What did you think about Osgood?
Well, she was a okay character, but I don't really see why they had her in there. She was like a plot device, I guess. But I guess they just wanted the scarf in there because they didn't want to bring him back as the Doctor. You know.
All right, Harry.
Osgood just, I mean, it's more, I guess, I gotta agree with Colin, so she's more of a plot device. I mean, outside of the fact that she's the assistant for her unit's boss, I mean, she doesn't really do much of anything except as far as moving the plot forward. I mean, it's basically she's just a character. And that's it. She doesn't do much of anything.
All right. And Colin from Scotland?
I quite liked Osgood, but I thought that it was a bit confusing because didn't Clara use Osgood's name or something? I'm getting confused here.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, Clara Oswald, but...
Yeah, they could have picked another name for her, surely. I thought she was alright, she was a nice character. Yeah, well, there was nothing wrong with her as far as I could see.
Yeah, I think what they were referring to by calling her Osgood, that was the name of the technical guy from the Daemons. That's what I think they're trying to harken back to. All right. Yeah. Romana, what do you think of Osgood?
I thought she was okay. I still think it was confusing that she kept like acting like an Uber fan, but clearly she'd never met the Doctor because he acted like he'd never met her, but she kept acting like a super fan. I don't know. I don't like it when Doctor Who puts fans in Doctor Who. It always seems like a bit of a cop-out to me.
Okay. All right, now let's hit the big question. This is one they brought up, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. This was another one that was in that list. The Zygon subplot wasn't necessary. Now, I can agree with them a little bit on this because it seemed to me like that the whole Zygon subplot was just there as a filler all the way up to when you get to maybe some of the good stuff at the end. So, let me ask your guys' opinion. We're going to start with Colin from America and go around. Do you really think the Zygon plot was even necessary in this episode?
Well, they could have done without it, but it was just cool to see him back, I guess, you know?
Yeah, it is their first reappearance since the 70s.
Yeah, they could have done without him. But it was just another classic reference, I guess.
Okay. And Harry?
There was no need for them. It didn't do anything for the plot of the special whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, they could have done without them. It just given us more to work with the basic plot itself.
All right. Colin from Scotland. Zygons, you think they're really necessary?
Yeah, well, they had to fill the show with something, and the Zygons really need a really good story to come back on, and this wasn't really it, I think.
I agree with you there. I think they should have made them, if they had made this as a separate episode just with them, I would have enjoyed it. But, okay. Let's move on. Romana, Zygons, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you see, to me, they had to put some sort of monster or something in to get David and Ma and John Hurt all together. They needed some sort of plot device. So that's really why the Zygons were there. And to be honest, I didn't have a lot of problem with the Zygons themselves. I thought in terms of the story they did a good job. How the story turned out was a bit meh. But actually, them in the story, it was actually all right. So I'm not too that bothered with it. But they had to do something to explain why all these different doctors came together at the same point in time.
All right. Okay, you're leaning forward in your seat. You want to say something. Go ahead.
I think the Zygon part was actually kind of boring. They could have used like the Cybermen or something else and made them a little bit more meaner or something to just add a little bit more to the plot.
After the last appearance of Cyberman, I say they need to really rethink Cybermen, because the way they came across was not like Cybermen. They came across more like Borg from Star Trek.
Well, you already know what I feel. I think they stole the whole concept of the Borg from the Cybermen myself. I think somebody on Star Trek The Next Generation was a Doctor Who fan, as far as I'm concerned, because I think that's where they got the idea of the Borg from.
Probably.
Right down to the Resistance is futile line.
Yeah,
But
the Doctor Who team seemed to have stolen the Borg back from them, because that's I prefer the old Mundus Cybermen for me anyway.
yeah. But don't worry, you're going to see them again very soon. Well, for a bit.
Let's hope they're scary then.
Well, I don't know. You're going to be seeing one of them's head a lot. Well, okay, that's coming up in the Christmas special. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. Now, another thing they brought up that I felt was, something that really did stand out for me was the absence of Christopher Eccleston, even for the regeneration scene. Now, do you really think this affected anything, not having Chris Eccleston in this thing at all? Especially, with just the John Hurt regeneration scene. You'd think it would have been better if, he had appeared, just said a couple lines. Let's start with Romana on this one and go around.
Oh yes, I mean I love Doctor Number 9. He'll always be have a special place in my heart, and I do think it's sad that he didn't at least show up to get for his big regeneration scene. But then again, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that he's never going to be in Doctor Who ever again. He just doesn't have the same kind of affection for it that all the other Doctors do have. But it's sad that he didn't show up, because it did feel like all four of them, including John Hurt, should have all been there, and that should have been the big story. But it's a shame, but it'll never happen.
I know, unfortunately, yeah, they couldn't persuade him, but I've heard other stories as to why he couldn't make it. But yeah, well, that's Chris Eccleston. It's not like he needed the work.
Yeah.
He's a really big time actor. I was shocked when they got him for the 2005 revival. All right, let's go to Scottish Colin. What did you think of the fact, absence of Christopher Eccleston?
Well, I suppose, yeah, I'd like to see her turn into Eccleston, but in another way, it's a way they could squeeze in their Doctor in this if they liked. Oh, they could have her turning into another Doctor before Eccleston. Ooh, it's possible.
Okay, Harry?
Didn't mean anything to me one way or the other. I mean, Christopher Eccleston's made it clear he wanted nothing more to do with the show. Oh, he had his problems with the show for the one season. To me, him not showing up didn't take anything away from it, didn't add anything to it.
All right, and Colin from America.
Well, I thought that when he did show up for like the half a second thing was pretty cool, but they should have had him. They could have used archive footage or whatever for the regeneration scene. And I mean, that's just so they don't throw another Doctor in between him and John Hurt.
Oh, I know.
Oh, don't give me any ideas.
Don't give me. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the absence of Chris Eccleston? Do you think it sucked or?
Honestly, the way they did the whole thing with all the Doctors, I think, sucked. They should have had, even if it was clips from other episodes for the ones who have passed away, they should have at least had clips of them in there. And then just had each one of the Doctors show up, even if it's just like to talk to the other three just for a minute.
I know, you're beating me to my next question, though.
Oh, I have a question for these guys, but I'm waiting to ask.
Okay, because this is the one I have a big issue with. This is the thing that, for the life of me, is why they can't call this the 50th anniversary special. Now, I know they can't write for all the companions, and of course, because there are so many of them who are still alive. But the fact that Doctors 5, 6, and 7 got so obviously snubbed. I loved having Tom Baker back, don't get me wrong. That was an incredible piece of 3 minutes. Probably, the thing that keeps me, probably one of the things that made me give this thing an 8 out of 10. But come on. They completely snubbed Peter Davison. They completely snubbed Colin Baker. They completely snubbed Sylvester McCoy. And there was no reason why they had to do it. Now, I want to ask everybody, how do you feel about the fact that, those three intervening doctors, plus, even one or two of the companions were not in this story at all? Let's start with Romana on this one.
Oh, I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. And even though I did like the episode, I have to say that especially after you find out that Tom's character isn't even the Doctor, all I kept thinking was, why couldn't they have made up side characters for all the other Doctors? They could have worked for UNIT, they could have been scientists, they could have been anybody. And all they would have had to done was give them a 5-minute cameo each. That would have been easy enough to do. So it's not fair that they got completely snubbed and Tom got put in as someone else, which totally that just hurts my head. But it's and I don't know how really you fix something like that. So I don't know what to say. Except I feel really bad for them.
Okay. Colin from Scotland, what do you think about the fact that three intervening doctors weren't in it and none of the companions?
Well, you've seen the 5 doctors, and it is getting a wee bit clunky with all the companions there and the doctors. I'm just worried if with all the doctors in it, it would just be just a bit too much to handle. I would love to see them all back. It would have been excellent, but how you get them in without making it clunky, and I don't know. It would be a struggle. But I would like to see them back, obviously.
Blasphemy! Oh, sorry. Just kidding. Okay, now, Harry, I know how you feel about this. Go ahead.
I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Moffat is an idiot. Moffat should have come up with a better plot line, something to at least include Doctors 5 through 7 in this. I mean, you can't do an anniversary special without looking back to your past. You can't do it without some sort of reference to the Doctors of long ago. At least, if you can't do them in person, at least throw in a clip of them or something, but do something to honor them. And Moffat, I'm just sorry, Moffat, for me, doing it the way he did is a total complete disgrace to the name of the show.
All right. And Colin from America, what do you think about the absence of the 3 doctors and 0 companions in the special?
Well, they should have definitely had a bigger part, because that just what ruined it for me, that they didn't have a bigger part in the 50th than the little clip that them all flying into Gallifrey.
Yeah.
They should have definitely had a bigger part. And I mean, they had David Bradley. They could have used him for the first. And the Tom Baker, he wasn't even the doctor. But maybe it was something like Peter Capaldi, how he was already in an episode.
Well,
Maybe.
they hadn't cast him yet at that point when they were filming it. They literally stuck that one bit in with his eyes later.
Yeah, but like how he was already in the Fires of Pompeii, maybe that's what they're trying to do with how maybe the 4th Doctor based his face off the curator.
Yeah, they did leave it a little vague, though. That's what I liked about it. They did leave it vague as to who he really is.
Yeah, because they could, like, maybe that's something like Peter Capaldi's doctor, how he already met himself. Maybe that's what they're trying to do with Tom Baker.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Because they both looked alike.
Yeah, you see, the one with me is this. The fact that they had, now, like I said, one of our distinguished panel members, who we all know and love, Doctor Who Man, talked to Carol Ann Ford and William Russell at a convention, and he told them about the sign outside the Coal Hill School with Ian Chesterton's name on it. William Russell became visibly, and I'm talking very visibly, agitated. You see, that was one of the things I couldn't understand. They couldn't have written in, a small scene with him at the Coal Hill School with Clara. They couldn't have done something, to show us Susan Foreman at an older age, because these guys, these particular companions are not going to be around forever. They're I believe Carol Ann Ford's 73. William Russell, I believe, is in his upper 80s. And yet they couldn't include them at all. And that's one of the reasons why I'm still visibly shaken. If they had just included them, I would have probably said, hey, 50th anniversary special, thumbs up. But without them, I can't do it. Because, just the fact they relegated the companions just to a bunch of, pictures on a wall in the background. When there were so many we did want to see. That's one of the reasons why I gave it a thumbs down as far as being a 50th anniversary special goes. Because you can look forward into the future anytime you want. You've got any other episode, out there you can do this on. But you only get one 50th anniversary episode. Now, one of the things I had complained about a lot was the length. And also the fact that this should have been a multi-part special. It should have at least been 4 or 5 parts like they did with David Tennant when he left at the end of his reign. Yet they delegated it down to one 75-minute movie. I'm going to ask everybody around the panel, do you think it would have been better if this had been a multi-parter or at least a decent movie length, say 90 to 120 minutes long? All right, let's start with Colin from America and go around.
Well, it definitely deserved a bigger time span, because they could have fit more stuff in there, or stuff like that, more doctors in it probably, because maybe they ran out of time and just threw the thing at the end in.
Okay, Harry?
It should have been longer. It should have been longer. I mean, 75 minutes, that's about as long as the so-called 25th anniversary story, Silver Nemesis, was. That's not long enough for a 50th anniversary. Should have been longer, more, at least as long, if not longer, than what they did for the 5 Doctors for the 20th anniversary.
I agree with you, because the End of Time Part 2 was 75 minutes long. I keep bringing this up, and people think I'm insane, because I was like, the 3 Doctors, even with credit, was 100 minutes. 5 Doctors was 90 minutes. And then you come to the 50th anniversary and you get 75? Still, that don't make any sense to me either.
I know, it's like Moffat has this crazy idea, let's cram everything in here, and the fans trying to figure it out afterwards. No, that's not the way you do an anniversary special. You do it right, you give it plenty of time, you make sure that things are explained. That's not what Moffat does. Doesn't do that.
All right, Colin, what do you think? You think it would have been better if it had been longer, or maybe even a multi-parter?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to chew. You're speaking to me there.
Sorry.
It should have been at least been a 2-parter. Was it me you're talking to? Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I forgot to say Colin from Scotland. My fault. Go ahead.
It should have been at least a 2-parter. What Tom Baker said at the end of the story, did they not imply that he might be meeting his other selves, or was that something else later on? I thought it was a slight implication that he might catch up with the other Doctors in his future time stream.
Yeah, that's why I love the fact they left it kind of vague as to who the curator was, and because I like to think still, to me, that was the well, then again, according to Tom, he was pretty much the 4th Doctor anyway. He didn't really have to act to be him. He was just being himself, and that's why I love just those last 3 minutes myself, because it did leave it wide open. Is he going to see them again later in the future? So he did mention revisiting some old faces, possibly just the favorites. So I can see that. Okay, Romana, what do you think? Should it have been longer, maybe even a multi-parter?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've always thought that having one episode and having it only be that amount of time was absolutely ridiculous, especially because of what happened to season 7 and that whole mess. And imagine all the things that they could have done if they just made it more than one episode. You know, Paul McGann could have got his own episode. All the classic Doctors could have got their own episode. You could have all the companions you want. You could have all the monsters you wanted. And all I keep thinking is, I bet you half of that episode has got hours and hours cut from it to try and get it to that length of time, because there's no way that episode started out as 75 minutes. No way. There's obviously been tons of it has been cut out.
Yeah, I was told Marcus Wilson told him to cut it down because he felt there were some parts that slowed it down. So, but apparently it was after a screening that was given to the BBC exec. So that part we can't blame Moffat for. That was a studio executive decision.
He didn't get enough slowed down parts up.
Yeah. Okay, now, before I bring up the next question, this is something I want to bring up for posterity since you mentioned Paul McGann. And I thought this was amazing. I even mentioned it in this morning's broadcast. And I want everyone to hear this. Out of 10,000 people who voted on a Doctor Who TV poll, 96% voted that Paul McGann should have his own miniseries. 96%. I just thought that was amazing. Okay, now here's the big thing, because Lady Gallifrey wanted me to bring this up.
Because I'll just ask the question.
Go on ahead, because I know she's peeved about this.
All right, when it comes to the moment, what do you guys think about that? You think they should have went ahead with Billie Piper on that, or do you think they should have used one of the older companions, or brought in a totally new actor or actress in there to put in that spot? Because I personally don't think they should have used Billie Piper.
Okay, let's start with Romana and go the other way around. What do you think about that, Romana?
Anybody but Rose Taylor. The second I saw her, it brought back all of those memories of God, I don't like you. And yet, the character itself was very good. So I think that actually bringing someone else in, anyone else in, to me would have made the character so much better. Because I see her face and I just get mad all over again.
I know. It's like of all the companions they had to bring in the one nobody wants to see anymore. Okay, Colin from Scotland. What did you think of Billie Piper in the role of the moment, or would you prefer an older companion or even a totally different actress?
Well, as somebody said in the other Omega Files podcast, it would probably be better if it had been Susan who'd come in, but I'm not a fan of Billie Piper. Oh dear me, no. But yeah, she played the role all right. She played it all right, and I was happy with the way she played it. Even though I'm not a Billie Piper fan, she played the role perfectly.
All right, Harry.
I didn't care for Billie Piper in the role. I would have anybody but Billie Piper. I mean, they could have brought in an older companion. They could have brought in a fresh face, but anybody but Piper. I mean, I think the only reason they brought her in is because they wanted a familiar face for the new fans.
I agree with you. I think they could have, because I actually had somebody hit me with this line, and they know who they are. If they'd brought in Susan, no one from the modern age would know who she was. It's one of those moments when I wanted to reach through my screen.
All you have to do is fill it with a line. The doctor would say, "Granddaughter, what are you?" Susan, exactly. Granddaughter. And that's it. Everyone knows.
You know, even if you weren't a fan of the old series, all it took was one line. Oh my God, that's my granddaughter. Oops, there you go. You know, it's not that difficult. Okay, then let's go ahead and go to Colin from America. What do you think? Billie Piper is the moment, or maybe another companion, or even an entirely new actress?
Well, I was honestly glad that she wasn't Rose, because they kept bringing her back and stuff. But I would have been glad to see Susan or someone else who could have talked them out of it or into it, killing off the Time Lords or whatever.
Because I thought Susan myself would have been more fitting because she's Gallifreyan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see,
And-
one they said in there too that kind of made me wonder. They said she had said in there that they was bringing back a face that he would recognize. John
Oh.
Hurt's character would not have recognized her because she was in the future.
Yeah, she explained
not
that
the
though.
past.
She goes, future, the past. I get those mixed up. So they did kind of explain that why it happened. It was kind of a mix-up.
No.
Okay, so all right. Now I'm going to go around. I'm going to ask this panel the same question I asked at the end of the last one before I go on into some other stuff. Out of 10, how do you rate this episode, and would you call this the 50th anniversary or no? Let's start with Colin from America. Go ahead.
I'd give it about an 8. I can see how they can consider it a 50th, but it's not a good 50th at all. It's an amazing episode. It's just not a good 50th.
Okay, and dare I ask, Harry?
I gave it about a 5 out of 10. And no, it doesn't qualify in my book as a 50th. It's not what I would call a 50th anniversary special. No, not in the least bit.
All right, Colin from Scotland.
Well, I give it an 8 out of 10. That's only for being a standalone episode. I wouldn't call it a good 50th anniversary. Not for that length of episode.
Okay, and of course, Romana.
Well, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I did think it was a very good episode of Doctor Who. And as for it being the 50th anniversary, I've been asking myself that a lot lately, and all I can come up with in my head is it's the best one that we could have possibly got right now with Moffat and his team. I just think that all the elements, that was the best thing that he could come up with. I do sort of think that.
Oh, okay. And do I have to ask Lady Gallifrey?
Your audience doesn't know yet. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Because in a way I thought it was kind of boring. They didn't have enough of the older doctors in there. The only parts that I really liked was John Hurt's character and Tom Baker.
And like I said, you already know what I thought. I gave it an 8 out of 10 as an episode, but I thumbed it down as being a 50th because you couldn't have had at least, if they had had at least William Russell and Carol Ann Ford appear, like I said, I would have been jumping through the roof, said great, fantastic, because here's your very first companions who are still alive, and that way you've honored the past as well as looking into the future. Tom Baker being there was fantastic beyond all measure. And, in just 3 minutes on screen was a lot more, especially as he is now, was a lot more than I was actually expecting. And they gave him such a magical scene there to do with Matt Smith. But like I said, I still can't call it a 50th anniversary episode. That's just because compared to other ones I've seen, for the 10th, the 20th, and whatnot, I hate to say it, but I think Dimensions in Time had a better chance of being an anniversary episode than this one did. That's saying a lot.
I think they used the Davidson, Baker, and McCoy did the other day.
Yeah. The bong. Somebody ring the bell. The fight's over. No.
That's just my box again.
Okay, now one thing I wanted to bring up today, because this article popped up, and this really, really perturbed me. Now, you've all seen the mini-sode with Paul McGann, Night of the Doctor, correct? I think everybody's seen it by now.
Yes.
You're going to love this, because this is what Moffat had to say about it. And this right here really ticked me off beyond all comprehension. Speaking to Flicks in the City, Moffat said the following, quote, "You know what's really important with Night of the Doctor? It's not that it was Paul McGann, brilliant as he was. It's that you had a bloody surprise. Back in the day we used to do those, and I'd like to do that again. I think this will usher in not so much a Paul McGann miniseries, but usher in more minisodes, and I think we should take them more seriously than we used to. Night was the first one we've actually said, let's make a high production value better, and let's give them a surprise. You can count on us doing something like that again, but we won't tell you when. I've actually told the BBC if we do it again, we're doing it in Cardiff, and we're not even telling you what we're doing, and we'll give it to you on the day." Now, is it just me? I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, me personally, Paul McGann made that freaking episode. So I'm going to ask the panel, Night of the Doctor, do you think Moffat's full of it as far as it wasn't Paul McGann? Let's start with Colin from America and go around the other way.
Oh yeah, no doubt it was definitely Paul McGann. That was a bigger surprise than whatever he's talking about.
All
Paul
right.
McGann being back.
Yeah, because people are now demanding. There's petitions all over the place. Some already have thousands of signatures for a Paul McGann miniseries.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, let's go to Harry.
I have no problem with McGann doing the role. I thought he did a fantastic job at it. I mean, you couldn't have done it without him. I mean, it just would not have worked if it had been anybody else.
I don't think so either. I think it was all Paul McGann. Because, especially when he names off all his previous companions from the Big Finish audio series, that right there really tickled my heart when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to Colin from Scotland.
Yes, Paul McGann knocked it out of the park. Surely. It was very good. It just wasn't long enough. We all went to see a bit more of McGann, probably, and we may never get the chance, but let's hope.
I know, it was the first time we've seen him as the Doctor in 17 years, and as I've said 100 times, that was the only reason I made it through the 96 movie, was watching Paul McGann in the role. Okay, let's go to Romana.
The absolute arrogance of Stephen Moffat never fails to surprise me. I can't believe he can't give Paul McGann some credit for that beautiful 6 minutes. God, can that man praise anybody but himself? I swear to God, that man just makes me mad every time he speaks. But no, Paul McGann was absolutely amazing, and if they don't do something else with him, anything else with him, it will be a crime, because I think the whole reason so many people watched that mini episode was because of Paul McGann, and because he did such a good job. He even surprised me, and that's a feat, because I've seen the TV movie at least like 10 times or more. So the fact that he even surpassed the expectations I had for him is a feat. But God, the arrogance of Moffat, it will never cease, will it?
You sound like Lady Gallifrey earlier today.
Let's put it this way: the way you worded it was a lot nicer than the things I say.
Well, I tried not to swear.
Let's just say she used some rather colorful language when I read that one for her earlier.
I give you Romana.
Yeah.
Let's try and get rid of from the center. Let's try and get rid of Moffat.
It just shows how much Moffat is in love with himself and not in love with the show.
It's me.
My personal opinion, Moffat's an arrogant ass, and I'm being kind for what I normally say.
Okay. Now that we've got all that ground covered, is there anything else anyone else want to bring up about the 50th that we have not covered? Anybody?
Nothing on my end.
Okay, I just want to make sure before I move on, because as promised, I'm going to tell you some more stuff about the Christmas episode. Remember, this is going to be spoiler material. But then again, given the fact that the Sun, a lot of the stuff I've already said earlier this week, it's kind of like, a lot of it's already out of the bag. But I have some more details on what's going on with Christmas. So if you want to bail out, now's the time to head for the door, because I'm going to drop the chalupa, as I say. All right. This is what's going on. Apparently, the TARDIS is going to receive it's going to start hearing this message. It's basically a bell. And you find out later it's the bell from the watchtower that you see in the photos that they put out earlier this week. And, of course, the Doctor, being curious, investigates. He lands in what's called Christmas Town. We, of course, find out, thanks to the Sun, that this is Trenzalore in the past. Now, this is what I have on it so far. A crack in time opens above Trenzalore. It leads to Gallifrey. The Time Lords are pleading with the Doctor for his help. They're repeating the question over and over, Doctor Who, over and over again. If the Doctor speaks his name, not only does he save the Time Lords, but the Time War also returns. Because the Daleks are still around. They survived thanks to them changing the past. And that explains finally why at the beginning of this season, Asylum of the Daleks, you see a fully restored Dalek Empire. It's because of what they did in this last episode, in the 50th. Okay, now he fears that if he lets the Time Lords go, they'll recommence the war as soon as they're released. That's the Doctor's dilemma. He can save the people, his people, but the Time War will begin again. Now, apparently the character played by Orla Brady is called Tasha Lim, who's apparently part Dalek. Don't explain, I can't figure it out how it fits in. But she's believed to be an agent of the Popple Mainframe, the head of the Church of the Silence. And that's what they're trying to do, stop the Doctor from speaking his name. And that's why they tried to blow up the TARDIS, which I still can't figure out for the life of me how destroying the universe saved it. But that's why they also engineered River Song to kill him at Lake Silencio. Now, apparently this crack in time, opens up and starts booming that message over and over again. But the Doctor does encounter the Silence. They start the episode as bitter enemies, but by the end, they will wind up being on the same side. Matter of fact, he's going to have several Silence that are his protective detail. Now, okay, I'm going to see, I'm skipping through my notes here real quick because there's a lot of stuff that's not really necessary. Now, it turns out, because of the way things are going to work out, you're going to have the Daleks showing up, the Cybermen, the Alliance, are going to show up around this world because they live in fear of the fact that the Doctor is going to unleash the Time Lords again. But the Church of the Silence, knowing he won't do it, have showed up to protect him, basically. That's what I'm getting from the notes. Apparently the Jadoon are also going to make an appearance. And, of course, the Doctor elects to stay on this world and fight this thing to a stalemate, which will last, according to this report, and I don't know why they got this other one. He's going to stay on Trenzalore for 900 years, having sent Clara away because she obviously couldn't live that long. And here's where it gets crazy. I know some of this I've said before, but I'm going to give you guys a refresher because you weren't on the previous podcast. While he and Clara are in this frozen forest, they're attacked by a group of weaving angels. His one leg gets infected somehow by the angels, and he loses it. I guess apparently it turns to stone. I don't know. I'm not sure on that end. The Doctor is going to have a wooden leg throughout this episode. I think they did this to explain because Matt Smith had knee surgery before they started filming the Christmas episode. So you're going to see him hobbling around quite a bit. They explained it as that is why. Also, his sole companion, now that Claire has been sent off, oh God, this is the part that still has me laughing, is a Cyberman's head that he's named. I'm not kidding. That's what's the worst part. I'm not kidding. Is a Cyberman's head that he has named Handles. Exactly. It's like, think Wilson from Castaway. Now, let me check my notes again because I lost my place laughing my head off. Now, apparently, it's going to lead up into a final conflict where the Daleks, the Alliance, and all that attack Trenzalore. And this is going to be the never-ending bitter war that Madame Kavarian refers to. And eventually, it leads down to the Doctor having a face-off with the Daleks, in which he does state, "What are you going to do to me? I'm dying anyway." And then being too old, you're going to see Matt age throughout this episode. They're going to age him with makeup. To the point, he finally gets to the point his body wears a bit thin, and he regenerates. Except when he regenerates this time, it's going to result in a massive explosion. Matter of fact, it's already been let out. He's going to regenerate at the top of the clock tower you see in the little painting or artwork they released earlier this week. Well, having done this, it wipes out the Daleks, wipes out everything in its path. But the strangest part is the regeneration energy you see comes down out of the sky from one of the cracks. And by the way, the cracks are all the same shape as the ones you saw back in Series 5. So even they're making a reappearance. So that's what I have so far on the Christmas episode. That's a little bit of an update.
You know, I do have a question on something. Okay, when Clara went to save the doctor in that one episode where she jumped in that stream of light and it was supposed to have scattered her over time,
Yeah.
is that what's supposed to have happened now or no?
No, yeah, this is after all that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but since he went through and he saved Gallifrey, now has that really happened? Or are they going to go back through and rewrite that crap and feed us a bunch of BS on that one?
Oh, trust me, all the timey-wimey aspects that just got screwed up with this episode, I'm still trying to figure out. Because if the Time Lord showed up in the end of time, they're going to wipe out the entire universe. Wait a minute, you just saved Gallifrey. I'm still smacking myself on the head trying to figure out how that resolves itself. But
I don't
it's a
see
mess.
where anything got resolved. I really don't.
But it ends with Clara showing back up. She finds the TARDIS. The door is standing open. The phone's hanging from its cradle. She walks in, and of course we hear that all too familiar voice of Peter Capaldi. So from what I'm hearing, you're not even going to see the actual transform stage. And apparently much of Series 8 is also going to revolve around the Doctor trying to find out just how he survived. Because we find out that Matt Smith is the last Doctor. Because of the fact they stuck another Doctor in there with John Hurt, plus they counted the regeneration that took place in the Stolen Earth. So, I don't know. Any questions, anybody?
One question. Who wrote this piece of garbage?
3 guesses.
Moffat!
But come on, we're going to have Handel's the Cyberman head.
I'm going to take a sword and chop off Moffat's head and then put it in as a companion.
You know, we all need to get a petition together and just say we're changing the name of the Cyberman's head. We're going to start calling it Mr. Wilson.
Wilson! So that's what I have on the Christmas episode so far. And like I said, there is a whole lot changed, but there is a few different things that got added in.
I've just got, for as bad as my memory is when it comes to certain shows and stuff like that, there's a lot of things I remember from Doctor Who, and I don't see where anything got ended in this 50th episode. I really don't. To me, all it did was add a bunch more questions that should have really been answered to begin with, so they could have moved on.
I know. It's crazy as heck, ain't it? I don't get it. I've been trying to reason it out in my head, and I just don't work. I think I'm going to give myself a headache. Okay, so any questions on anything else before we bring this thing to a close? Anybody?
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
How does all of this, none of it fits together? Why would the Silence be his new allies in that if the whole reason they're there is to stop him? Why would... But that doesn't make sense.
Because apparently it comes down to the fact that they're afraid if they don't protect the Doctor, the Alliance coming after him is going to force him sooner or later to say his name. And you see, when they first meet, they're going to be bitter enemies as they were before. But apparently over time, the Silence realize, because the Doctor, one of the things I forgot to mention about Trenzalore, it's trapped in a truth field, whatever that is. And they're afraid that sooner or later the Alliance are going to force the Doctor. Harry, what are you doing?
I'm just looking over some old papers I've got.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I said it once, I don't care how many times I gotta say it, but we need someone other than Moffat to be running the show. If he wants to write for the show, that's one thing. But trying to do both, no thank you.
Okay. But to answer Romana's question, Trenzalore is surrounded in a truth field. And because the Alliance, you remember them from back at the end of Series 5, the Sontarans, Daleks, everybody and their grandmother.
Yeah.
they're afraid sooner or later because what the Alliance is doing is going to force him to say his name and unleash the Gallifreyans, and the Doctor doesn't want to do it because he knows what will happen. Because if the Gallifreyans reappear with the Daleks still around, there's going to be a time war, like all over again. And so they start protecting him to help avoid that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I think we've covered all the bases. We've covered all the ground. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. But I think we've given this thing a fair hearing. You know, we've gone over it from every angle. Any parting thoughts? I'm going to go around to each and every one of you before we close this off. Colin, anything you want to say before we go? For America.
No, nothing to say here.
All right, Harry, anything you want to end on?
All I gotta say is, it's always a pleasure working with you guys, and I'm looking forward to eventually seeing what, if anything, the BBC has got planned for the future.
Okay, Colin from Scotland, any final thoughts or regards?
No, just well, ladies, gentlemen, thanks for having me. The Christmas episode sounds as if it could be very good.
Yeah, it does sound like it's going to turn out to be pretty good, despite what they're leaking. I think it's going to be better than Day of the Doctor. All right, and of course, Romana.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I would like to say to all the people out there, please don't come round my house with pitchforks because I like the episode. That'd be great. Especially because I also think the Christmas special sounds great. Also, so yeah, and another episode I'll have to defend for weeks and weeks to come. But just thanks for having me on the podcast, and don't hate me too much for liking the episode.
Oh, we can never hate you. We love you too much. I'm quite glad to have you on.
Nobody hates you, for heaven's sake.
And Lady Gallifrey, you want to add anything before we go?
Just a message to Moffat: start talking to kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old and give you some freaking ideas for the show.
Okay, everyone. And with that thought, I'm going to leave off. Once again, thanks for listening to the Omega Files, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Ta-ta. Goodbye.